YouTube, it's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, two undefeated fighters agreed. That being undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the WBO welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, superstar boxer Terence Bud Crawford. 37 wins, no losses, no draws, 27 big wins by way of knockout, 33 years of age. He'll turn 34 years of age next month. Stands at 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. Last time we saw him in the ring was November of last year when he took on and defeated former IBF welterweight world champion, British superstar boxer Special K. Kell Brook. And undefeated rival, unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, who is widely considered by many to be top 3 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, in Errol the True Spence Jr., superstar boxer, who is 27 wins, no losses, no draws, 21 big wins by way of knockout. Errol Spence is 31 years of age, stands at 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. Last time we saw him in the ring was December of last year when he took on defeated 2-division world champion, superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia, and won unanimous decision. With that said, they both were on the verge of landing a mega showdown with legendary, iconic Filipino superstar boxer Manny "Pac-Man" Pacquiao. Errol Spence was supposed to fight Manny Pacquiao 24 hours ago, and Errol Spence had to pull out the fight due to a detached retina injury that saw him have to be removed from the fight after a routine pre-fight checkup, and a doctor found that he had a detached retina. And Terence Crawford, he's been seeking out and vowing to get an opportunity to fight Manny Pacquiao for the better part of 5 years. But his promoter, legendary promoter, top-ranked CEO and promoter, Bob Arum, he prevented the fight from coming to fruition. They even had an opportunity, as Manny Pacquiao stated, to fight in November, but due to the pandemic, it knocked things off track. And then another opportunity to fight in June 5th. But Bob Arum stated that he wasn't willing to put up the necessary purse for both fighters to make the fight come to fruition. We also know Bob Arum, he stated that an investment group in Abu Dhabi, they prevented the fight as well because they pulled out of the fight, and Bob Arum wasn't willing to put his money in the fight. So Manny Pacquiao, he took on, ironically, Cuban star boxer who was the WBA regular champion at one point, that being Yordenis Ugas. But Yordenis Ugas was elevated to super champion by the WBA, World Boxing Association, and President Gilberto Mendoza, after Manny Pacquiao had defeated former unified welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith "one-time" Thurman, July of 2019. But Manny Pacquiao, due to inactivity, Manny Pacquiao was placed as champion in recess, and Yordenis Ugas was elevated to the super champion because he was the regular champion at the time. And this left the boxing world in a tizzy, right? Because in this fight, when Manny Pacquiao agreed to fight Errol Spence, Manny Pacquiao 62 wins, 7 losses, 2 draws, 39 big wins by way of knockout. Manny Pacquiao himself was knocked out 3 times, 42 years of age, stands at 5'5" with a 67-inch arm reach. Well, Manny Pacquiao now has another L in that loss column. Now he has 8 losses, as he lost last night in a shocking upset unanimous decision in a fight where Yordenis Ugas completely dominated Manny Pacquiao in a basic manner, just using a 1-2 straight right hand and a sweeping right hook. He beat Manny Pacquiao to be the super champion, replacing Errol Spence. And Terence Crawford, he responds and says, well, Errol Spence needs me after all. Errol Spence, he responds to the performance with a frowning emoji, sad emoji, and he says, man. In other words, to say, man, oh man, if that was me. Because after the performance Manny Pacquiao had last night, most people felt as if that was Errol Spence in replacing Yordenis Ugas, Errol Spence gets the stoppage victory. If that was Terence Crawford in there with Manny Pacquiao, Terence Crawford, he also responded to this, and he stated, if only. And he put the same sad emoji, right? In other words, saying, if only that was me in there. Terence Crawford is a switch fighter. He switched from southpaw to orthodox very fluidly. He's a knockout artist, knocked out his last 6 opponents. Errol Spence, big and strong, a pressure fighter who has versatility to box on the outside or the inside, mid-range. But these are guys that have a lot of power. Yordenis Ugas has, in over 31 fights, he only has 12 knockouts. So he's not seen as a big knockout artist. He doesn't have a lot of power. So with that said, most people would have expected Terence Crawford or Errol Spence to get a stoppage victory over Manny Pacquiao. So Manny Pacquiao has retired. So neither one of these guys are who are viewed as the best fighters in their era. And the biggest fight in the sport of boxing is these two versus each other. So they both wanted that legacy fight, you know, that announcement to the casual boxing fans, because Manny Pacquiao, he's a legend. He's a crossover sports superstar. He's the Floyd Mayweather, him and Floyd Mayweather, those crossover sports superstars today's time. That the casual boxing fans, where I'm walking through the arena and people are saying they bought tickets simply because they saw Manny Pacquiao on the billboard. They didn't even know there was a boxing match, but they know who Manny Pacquiao is, and they have no idea who Yordenis Ugas is. But Yordenis Ugas, he was able to stop the train and get the victory over Manny Pacquiao. And now people are going to know who Yordenis Ugas is simply because this is the man who just beat Manny Pacquiao. And so the opportunity was lost on the part of Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. So Terence Crawford, he states, I know you feel the same way I feel after watching that fight, and not in a dislike manner, but just in we missed the opportunity. So now we need each other. Terence Crawford, Errol Spence was already viewed as the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. And now it has just gotten bigger. The problem is we don't know physically when Errol Spence will be able to get back in the ring. One doctor even advised Errol Spence that he should call it quits. Now, we saw this injury against, when legend, icon, Hall of Fame superstar boxer Sugar Ray Leonard suffered the injury. He was able to come back, have one of the biggest fights in the history of boxing against Marvelous Marvin Hagler, another icon, superstar, Hall of Fame boxer in the sport of boxing. Rest in power to Marvelous Marvin Hagler, who transitioned. With that said, Sugar Ray Leonard was able to come back, and that was back in the 80s. And he was able to come back. He fought on after that. He beat Marvelous Marvin Hagler. You know, he continued his career. He had some losses, but he was able to come back. And people wonder if Errol Spence, that is, be able to come back. Errol Spence, today's time, medicine and technology is far more advanced than it was back in the 80s. Okay, we're talking about over 40 years ago when that took place with Sugar Ray Leonard at that time, almost 40 years. So this is the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, but we still don't know when will Errol Spence be able to grace the square circle. Some people say the recovery time could be 4 months. Some people say it could be 5 months. Some people saying it could be weeks. Who knows? Now, Terence Crawford is being talked about. He's supposed to face off against two-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Shawn Porter, as the WBO, World Boxing Organization, have ordered Terence Crawford to face off against Showtime Shawn Porter in his next fight. They had 30 days to go to negotiate and come up with a plan. And if it didn't, they would go to a purse bid, which would see Terence Crawford get the lion's share of 60-40 split. They are now going into a purse bid, so we have to see how this plays out. Terence Crawford owes Top Rank one more fight. Everybody is interested to see what's the next move on the part of Terence Crawford. Is Terence Crawford going to part ways with Top Rank, ESPN, and Bob Arum? Or is Terence Crawford, going to re-sign and still put a roadblock between him and all the best welterweights who are all with the PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, founder and advisor Al Heyman? So, with that said, Terence Crawford, is one of the best fighters in the world. Errol Spence is one of the best fighters in the world. And this is the fight we want to see. this would be the biggest fight in Terence Crawford's career against Sean Porter, because Terence Crawford, he has accomplished a lot within the sport of boxing, but he doesn't have that legacy name, that the career-defining fight on his resume. Now, he does have a fight with Julius Indongo where he was undisputed, but nonetheless, Terence Crawford doesn't have that big name. Julius Indongo wasn't a super big name. He wasn't a legend. He wasn't a future Hall of Famer. He's not a big star in the sport of boxing. Not too many people outside of hardcore boxing fans even know who Julius Indongo is. So with that said, you know, everybody wants to see Terence Crawford step up and level of competition and see if the titles that so many people give him as a superstar, as a pound-for-pound fighter, is it worthy, okay? Is it garnered? So everybody wants to see Sean Porter is going to press you every second of every minute of every round, okay? Sean Porter is going to be on you. He's going to press you. He's not going to give you rest. That's just who Sean Porter is. He's arguably the greatest, has the best feet, and one of the greatest athletes to ever grace the sport of boxing. Okay, many people say Sean Porter is a football player, not a pure boxer. So this would be a major test for Terence Crawford. And if Terence Crawford, Sean Porter has never been blown out in any fight. He's never been knocked out in any fight. Now, he's been knocked down a few times, but never knocked out or blown out in any fight. So everybody wants to see, is Terence Crawford worthy of that label of being a pound-for-pound best fighter in the world and a superstar in the sport of boxing? He gets past Sean Porter and makes a statement against Sean Porter, well then Errol Spence and Terence Crawford fight may have just gotten even bigger. But now, on the flip side of that, if Terence Crawford is to fight Sean Porter and he's to part ways with Top Rank, he's going to be expected to sign with the PBC. He signs with the PBC. Sean Porter, he beats Sean Porter, and Errol Spence is still not available. Errol Spence still holds the WBC and the IBF. Now, are we going to get Terence Crawford versus Yordenis Ugas? Because Yordenis Ugas, he'll be ready to fight again. Maybe he should be ready to fight at the end of the year. But seeing as though there's not a fight that just makes sense before the year's up, Yordenis Ugas to fight back in early 2022. Is Errol Spence going to be ready in early 2022? Is Errol Spence going to need a tune-up fight just to see where he stands with his physical health, with his eye? Okay, does he want to? We know Errol Spence, he suffered a horrific car accident just 12 days after unifying the titles against Sean Porter, September 28th. October 10th, he suffered that horrific car accident when we saw his white Ferrari tumble down the street. So he came back, 14-month layoff, had rehab, obviously, came back and fought one of the best fighters in the world, Danny Garcia, and beat him handily. Is he going to attempt to do that again with this sort of injury? Okay, who knows? But is he going to be ready? And Terence Crawford parts ways, beats Sean Porter in dramatic fashion, and Errol Spence is on the shelf. Well, the fans are going to start to call for Terence Crawford versus Yordenis Ugas unification bout, especially if Terence Crawford signs with the PBC. And that may be a smart move on the part of the PBC because it all stays in-house anyway. So Errol Spence, let's say he fought a tune-up fight at that point, just to test where he's at physically, okay, just to test the eye and see where he stands. And now you have Terence Crawford fighting Yordenis Ugas in the unification bout. Terence Crawford is going to be the favorite to beat Yordenis Ugas. Now, is Terence Crawford beats Yordenis Ugas, Terence Crawford, Errol Spence got even bigger because now it's for undisputed and it's both in-house. PBC is not a hard fight to make because they're both with the PBC at that point in time. So the biggest fight in the sport of boxing got even bigger because now it's for all the marbles. So at the end of the day, Terence Crawford is saying, well, now Errol Spence needs me. We obviously know the backstory. Errol Spence said, give me 60-40, I'll make the fight happen. Terence Crawford said it got to be 50-50 or no fight. Then Terence Crawford, he wasn't so optimistic about the fight. He said, the fight is in my rearview mirror. Errol Spence is playing games. Errol Spence was still optimistic, saying, after I get past Yordenis Ugas, Manny Pacquiao, those level of fighters, I still want to fight with Terence Crawford. Now, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford is in a situation where they definitely need each other because there's no fight they can make bigger in the welterweight division other than with each other, and it's already the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. So let's see how this all unfolds and plays out. Make sure you hit the like button, drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Raw. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
You're watching Blue Blood Sports TV. Wow.